Okay, trying to figure this out. Never done this on my computer before. Let's see, let's put some music on. I know I'm a little late. I'm trying to figure this out because I've never done this on my computer. So, play a little music in the background. Alright, let's see if I can expand this. Nope, watch it little. Let's see. Okay, so I can see my comments. Alright, cool. Alright. I don't know why I can't make this play. Okay. Down. Hurt any current frame rate is too low. Please set. I don't know what that means. Okay. I'm new to this, y'all. Okay. So we're gonna give it a little bit, let some people jump on. Kind of listen to some music. This is actually Tamala Mann that plays Cora in the Medea movies, and she's got a beautiful voice. I don't have much. Don't worry, I don't drink. This is Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper and coffee. That sometimes lemonade. That's it for me. Just because it's in a red Solo cup. Some of us, I had some extras left over, and I wasn't gonna, dirty more dishes. My son appreciates that. So, I don't know how cryptic my little post was prior to this, but anybody who really knows me probably knows what we're going to talk about tonight. Because it's a testimony. A big one. A very big one. So, we'll give it another few seconds and then we will start. And ignore my husband's banner back here, the whole Sailor Moon Hellraiser thing. If you knew my husband, you would understand he's a bit weird. But that's why I love him. Also, found out earlier today, a couple hours ago actually, Annabelle called and informed us that Matt's Aunt Virginia passed away today. So please keep all of us in your prayers. I've known Matt's family since I was in the 3rd grade, so that they've always been family to me even before I was in the family. And Aunt Virginia was a sweet, sweet lady. Oh, she was just the sweetest. Y'all will love her. She passed away earlier today, so that's another death in the family. I want to say thank you to everyone that I'm gonna cut the music. I want to say thank you to everyone that has been donating to Matt's GoFundMe and helping us out. For those of you who don't know, on top of everything else this week, my husband's truck decided to say, you know what, I'm done. You worked me a little too hard. He's had it a little over 8 years. He got it right before me and him got together. It's a 95, so, it had a good run. We're trying to get the money together to get us another vehicle. We are not trying to finance a vehicle. I've never had a car note. I'm 48 years old. I don't intend to have a car note now. No. So we're trying to raise... All together, we're trying to get about 3 grand together because we can get a second-hand used vehicle for that, pay cash for it, and it'll be ours. We don't have payments. That's the way I like to do things. Um, because you never know when situations like this is going to happen and you can't make that payment. I That's just always been my mindset. I have never been in, like, I've never had credit cards. I've never done loans. Well, I have done loans, but like I haven't done like car loans and things like that. I've always just generally taken my taxes and used that money and bought me a secondhand used vehicle. And personally, I don't want anything newer than a 2000. I really want something a little older because all of this new high-tech redneck crap they're coming out with, and especially some of this AI, scares the bejesus out of me. And I don't want to be driving down the road and my car decide, you know what, I don't want to go that way, let's go that way, and go right off Hiram Bluff. No, that ain't happening. So, but we do need a truck. We do know that because after Matt gets off work, a lot of days he has scrap that he hauls, and that helps pay the bills. We don't have a whole lot of bills, and we're not in debt. I mean, that's one thing. I mean, we may be broke as crap, but we are not in debt, and I don't intend to get us there. So we're trying to raise, enough money to pay cash for a secondhand vehicle, truck, between what I have to haul with my photography and what he has to haul with scrap and sometimes trapping. We have to have a truck. There's no getting around that. So, what's going on is he set up a GoFundMe. I've shared it on my Facebook. I've also shared it on the Napping Dragon page as well. I'm doing a raffle there, by the way, for free photo sessions. $5 each. Maybe I should have said waffle. I don't know. Facebook is a little wonky. Anyway, so we've got the GoFundMe. Currently, my father-in-law's truck is loaded down with the trailer as well for a load of scrap to go out tomorrow. That's going to go towards getting us another vehicle. We're hustling on our end. Believe me. I've decided to extend the half off on wedding pictures until August 31st. Anything I make on that is going to go towards vehicle fund, and that's for any future date. Like, it doesn't have to be for a wedding between now and the 31st. You just have to book it until between now and then to get the half off discount. Alright, so we've been on here for a bit. What is this? Alright, click off of it. Alright, we've been on here for a bit, so we're going to go ahead and start. We are going to jump in our little time machine tonight and go all the way back to the year 2011. The year 2011 was when God spanked me, and he spanked me big. And I ain't gonna sit here and lie, I deserved it, especially for what I said. I got cocky. I deserved it. Not gonna lie. Part of it was, at that time, I didn't even believe in God. Well, part of me believed that there was a God, he just didn't love me, and I've always struggled with that. My entire life, I still struggle with that. But I just felt like I'd never seen proof that he was there. Well, I got my proof in 2011. Boy, did I. In 2011, I had already left my ex-husband. I was a single mom of 3. I had gotten a promotion at work. I was manager of the portrait studio at Walmart on Mansfield Road. I did a lot of your pictures. And that's what got me where I am today. I'm thankful for that job. Believe me, the fact that I have my own business doing it, it's amazing. God has blessed me in so many ways, and that's why I'm telling this story. Because the photography stuff is part of it. Well, Billy and I have been split up for almost a year. and my cousin Andy passed away. At his funeral, I ran into somebody that I kind of known my whole life. I was friends with his brother in high school, and then we ended up dating after that. There are a lot of things bad that I could say about that person. I'm not going to name it. Well, everybody knows it was Kevin. Um, there's no sense in hiding it. It was Kevin. This little thing keeps popping up. Don't know why. Anyway. Um, so I was dating Kevin. And he had moved in with me. Well, there was one night. It was hot in my, because I had my trailer out there by mom's, and I didn't have air conditioners in there. All I had were fans, because I'd just gotten it set up a couple of months before that, got the sewage done, all that good stuff. I mean, literally, we had just moved in. Like, in fact, I couldn't even sleep in my bedroom because my stepdad was in the process of putting down plywood on the floor in the bedroom to reinforce it. So we were sleeping actually in the living room, me and Kevin were. Kids were sleeping in their rooms. Well, there was one night, my oldest came into the living room and said, "Mom, I'm hot." Well, there was 2 fans on us, and I told him to take one of them. Kevin had a fit. And we got into a big fight. I think it might have been our first fight. I believe it might have been. We got into a big fight. I threw him out, and I said something that I never should have said. But because I said it, it saved me from going to hell. That's the best way I can say it. It saved me from going to hell. Because like I said, at that point, I didn't believe God existed. And I mean, I used to practice witchcraft a long time ago. So anyway, I stood up to Kevin's face that night and I said my exact words. Not even God himself comes before my kids. Get out. That was my mistake. That was why God punished me. God got my attention after that. Because, and I should have seen this sooner than what I did. But that's usually how this happens, right? Kevin has a problem. Now, at that time he did. I haven't seen him in maybe 10 years. No, it's been less than 10 years because after the restraining order, he came into Family Dollar one day. And it was right after the restraining order had expired. And, you know, I went ahead and I checked him and his girlfriend out. And after I had a full store. I was there by myself. My other cashier had run down to Sonic on his break to pick me and him both something to eat. And it was like as soon as Sherman pulled out, they walked in. Luckily, my mom come in about the same time, so I had, witnesses. But the store was full. I was there by myself. I was checking people out. I checked them out. After the store cleared, Sherman got back, and I could get away off the floor and go in the office. I politely sent his girlfriend a text and asked her next time, please have him set in the vehicle. And then, funny enough, he ended up calling like the next day to complain to the manager about me and try to get me fired. Guess who answered the phone? And I had literally just walked in the door and locked in. And he's like, can I speak to a manager? And I'm like, I'm assistant manager. How can I help you? Is there anybody else? And I'm like, no, I'm the only one here, Kevin. What do you need? And he hung up. Well, then Teresa, the manager of the Gloucester store at the time, she ended up calling him back because we had caller ID on the store phone. She called him back and talked to him and told him, no, you're not to come in this store. But anyway, that is what it is. That's another reason I moved, because he has a stalking problem. and he has a problem with Jim, or did at this time. He could have gone to AA by now. I don't know. But at the time we were together, he had a problem with Jim Beam. And it was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. As long as he lays off the Jim Beam, he's a great guy. But he can't take his liquor. Big part of the reason why I don't drink right now anymore, because I mean, back then I didn't. When I did drink, I didn't drink a whole lot. I wasn't like the party type. Now I like to go and do karaoke. Don't get me wrong, but I was chill, just sipping on a banana daiquiri the whole night. Whatever. I wasn't up there to get wasted. I was up there to have fun. He was up there to get wasted. And when he did, he got me. Most of it was emotional and mental. But I should have seen it sooner. I should have seen it that night. Well, this man is slick. Okay? And I mean, after it was all said and done, I was like, holy cow, he's almost genius level. I mean, this manipulation to the nth degree here, okay? He plotted for an entire week and planted seeds that I was crazy and suicidal. About a week later, I'm hauling off the trash one night and I get surrounded by 8 cop cars. They're hauling me into the 10th floor of LSU because it's been reported that I was trying to commit suicide, and I wasn't. I wasn't. I just split up with him. I'm like, dude. He even went so far right before that, and this was part of the way he was able to prove I was crazy. We had a Walmart card that we put money on every week, because he got paid one week, I got paid the other, and we would put our gas money on it for the week, and we would just trade it back and forth for the week. Well, I had just gotten paid. He had the card. So I was at work, and I texted him. I was like, I need the card back. I put the money on it. He's like, okay, we'll swing by the bar when you get off work, and I'll run it out to you. So that's what I did. Next thing I know, I got Caddo Parrish knocking on my window. What are you doing here? And when I told him, I showed him the text and everything. I'm like, look, I'm just here. He was supposed to come outside and give me the gas card back. We split up. I mean, I showed him the text and everything, and one of them went in there, got the gas card, brought it to me. I left. But somehow, and this is crazy because I never got out of the vehicle. Never once got out of the vehicle. Somehow it gets back to my ex-husband that I was in the bar with my 3 kids and I lost my kids in a bar. Now this was Rustic Cowboy. A little bitty hole in the bar, like my living room is bigger than this place. And somehow I lost my kids in there? Come on. And beside that, what bar in Louisiana is going to allow my little children in it? Come on. Really? Do you think Jackie Briggs wants a fine like that? No, he did. Not Jackie Briggs. Why did I say Jackie Briggs? Jackie Brock. Do you think Jackie Brock wanted that kind of fine? Hell no, he didn't. He'd kick me out in a heartbeat if I had my kids with me. That never happened. But it got back to my husband, ex-husband, that it did. Well, he was my husband at the time still. So like I said, he was planting seeds for a solid week. So I'm sitting at LSU Hospital on the 10th floor in the cuckoo ward, and I'm trying to explain to these people that I've been set up. And of course they don't believe me. That was the one time, I will say, that my daddy came through for me. That was the one time that my daddy believed me when nobody else did, not even my own mama. Kevin had my mama convinced. She was up in Arkansas camping when all this went down. And she had my mama, she was convinced. I mean, come on. Anyway. So while I was in LSU, even though my stepdad had the kids, he took them back to his house in Caddo Parish. DeSoto Parish CPS shows up and had my mom take the kids back to her house so they could take them into their custody since I was at LSU. So now my kids are in foster care. I'm in the hospital. What can I do? Well, before I went to the hospital, we need to back up just a little bit. Before I went to the hospital, they had me in a holding cell at DeSoto. And it was in that moment that I said, what have I got to lose? I don't know if you're there or not, God. But if you are, I kind of need your help right now. And that was when I got proof that God exists. My proof was when I heard his voice for the first time ever. And it brought me to my knees. No, I wasn't hearing voices, but I was praying, and this random thought just come through my head, and I knew it wasn't my own, and my whole body was shaking. That was God. And I know it was God because of what he said to me. He said to me, I'll never forget it. He said to me, put it in my hands, and I will bring beauty from your pain. Now let's talk about that part right there, because that's that last little part, the beauty from my pain, is what really had me shaking and on my knees. Because that is a song. Anybody who knows me knows that I sing, I love music. Okay. Ironically, first time I ever heard it, I was in a strip club. That's back in my days when I was house mom at Deja Vu, and Billy was head of security. And one of the girls used to dance to it. And I told him one night, I'm like, I really love this song. He's like, that's a Christian band, right? And I'm like, no way. He's like, yeah, it's Beauty from My Pain by Superchick. It's a Christian band. And I'm like, holy cow. First off, she's wrong for dancing to that naked on the stage. I'm just saying. But I never knew that was a Christian song. My ex-husband kind of introduced me to that song. And when God said that, that's when I knew it was him. It was a long journey after that, believe me. I think it happened on like a Thursday night. So I was in the cuckoo ward at LSU. I know I probably shouldn't say cuckoo ward, but it was a psych ward. And DHS had this plan to have a court hearing on Monday, and they were like trying to keep me in that hospital until after that court hearing, because they were adamant about taking my kids from me for some freaking reason. And I'm a good mom. I'm an awesome mom. Yeah, my oldest is mad at me, but that's on him. Like, I'm not changing my reality to fit what he's got going on. No, that's not happening. But my kids will tell you, I'm a good mom. They remind me of that every day. So, I'm sitting up there. Nobody believes me but my daddy. Jerry Copeland believed me. Luckily, he was living in Shreveport at the time. Now, this is the story from my dad. Take it how you will. Because we all know that my dad had a problem with meth. And he sometimes embellished. But here's what he told me. Now I was standing up there. I heard the phone. I heard he was on the phone and whatever. But he said he called my Uncle Nile. And more than likely he did. Because at the time, Uncle Nile was a judge in Houston. And he would know what to do. More than likely, I see that. But according to my dad, my Uncle Nile went to college with Bobby Jindal, who was governor of the state of Louisiana at the time. And my Uncle Nile made a phone call. And Bobby Jindal said, give him my number. And my dad was standing up at the nurse's station. They were arguing with him. No, we're not letting her go. We're not letting her go. And he pulled his phone out. And Bobby Jindal was on the other line telling him, hey, you better let this lady go, or I'm flying up there and you don't want me there. I got to go home that day. It was a Sunday, the day before the hearing. They were floored. When they see me walk in that courtroom, the DHS people, when they see me walk in that courtroom, they weren't expecting that. And they weren't expecting me to do what I did next either. See, I saw what they were planning, but I'm better. Okay? On the way, because Billy had done made his way down there by that point. And I picked him up, and we drove to the courthouse together. And on the way there, I had a conversation with him. And I told him, I said, I'm fixing to walk in that courtroom and tell the judge to give the kids to you. I said, but here's the deal. If you screw me over in this in any way and try to keep those kids from me, I promise you, I will get a lawyer and I will nail your balls to the wall. I knew, because I'd prayed the night before. Well, I'd been praying all weekend after I talked to God. It's like, wow. But I was smart enough to realize that I could not walk in that courtroom and say, hey, I was set up, without any evidence. And I didn't have the evidence to back it up. So, I did the next best thing for my children. And I told the judge they need to go with their daddy for right now. And the judge agreed. And the judge told him he was not allowed to leave the state of Louisiana with him. In there, I've got a box of paperwork, court paperwork. It's all online on Arkansas Judicial, whatever, where you look up the court cases. Just look up Elizabeth Hughes, or I can't remember if it was under Copeland or Hughes, but it's under Billy Hughes and Elizabeth Copeland Hughes or whatever. Yeah, that's our messy custody case right there. Because the judge had not even signed the order yet and issued it when DHS gave him my kids, and he fled the state. First thing he did. Sayonara. Sayonara, see ya, wouldn't want to be ya. And he ghosted everybody. I had DHS caseworkers calling and threatening me, telling me they were going to put me in jail because he ran with them. I'm like, look, the judge told him not to. I'm just now finding out he ran. I didn't know until you told me. And I didn't. But that's where it started. I'm going to try to keep this a little bit short. I may have to break it up into, like segments or whatever, but that's how I lost my kids. That's how God spanked me. That's how God got my attention. And that's the reason I can't even be mad at me to God. And had they not done that, I probably wouldn't have gone to heaven. Even though I, was saved and baptized as a kid, I backslid bad. I backslid worse than you can imagine. So, that's the first part of that story. Now, 2 years goes by. I'm dealing with, now, at that point Kevin hadn't hit me, but I was dealing with a lot of verbal mental abuse, and nobody loves you, and you have no friends, and you're only to speak when spoken to. You're not good enough. That's where I got that. He burned that in my head, and I can't get it out. He killed my self-esteem. Bruises and black eyes and concussions heal. That shit never goes away. Ever. As far as I know, because it's been, what? We broke up finally in 2015. So, 11 years now? Going on 12? And it's still right here. I don't know how to fix that. That's the hard, talking about the abuse and stuff that I went through. I don't talk about it at all, because it was a nightmare. That was why I stopped writing my book, because I got to that part in the book and I can't even talk about it, so how am I going to write about it? Right? So anyway, we were off and on between 2011 and 2015. In 2012, I will tell this story. in 2012, right before the Texaco Country Showdown, Kevin got a hold of me one night. I found a friend of mine that I went to Job Corps with, Katrina. I found her on Facebook. And I hadn't talked to Katrina since I was pregnant with Bailey. I mean, she used to live right there beside me in Ringgold while Billy was in the Army in basic training. She was at my house, supporting me and there for me while I was pregnant, and he couldn't be there. And I had found her online. Well, I was out on the porch talking to her for like hours. And he was getting upset because I was laughing and giggling and having a good time. When I got off the phone, he went nuts. By the time it was all said, one thing about Kevin, he used to do the Renaissance Fair a lot. So he's got like props and stuff from the Renaissance Fair. He's got an actual pair of shackles. He used them on me, along with zip ties from his Home Depot kit, where he worked at Home Depot. So I was zip tied and shackled and bound. And he put tape over my mouth. He had me on the floor. He slammed my head on the floor, broke my clippy. And he looked me in the eyes and he said, I can make you go missing. And nobody would even look for you, let alone find you. Even after he said that, my dumb ass went back to him. I fled to Morgan City and went to my dad's after that. And the thing is if you look at the pictures from the Texaco Country Showdown really closely, and they actually use this as evidence when I press charges on him, if you zoom in and look at my arms, you can see the bruises. They're there. So, I was dealing with that. So I ended up going to my dad's, and I was there for a few months, and I seen that Samstown and Shreveport was hiring. I've been trying to find a job down there and couldn't. Seen Samstown and Shreveport's hiring. I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna go back. And I ended up going back to Kevin like a dummy. But I found a place to stay with some friends of mine until I could get me a place, and I had a job, so I was getting back on my feet. That's when I still had the rodeo. God, I miss my rodeo. Oh, if I could find me a rodeo right now. Oh, anyway. So, he and I got back together. I'm working at Samstown. Was I working at Samstown? Yeah, I was working at Samstown. No. Hold on, I'm trying to remember. It's been a while. Okay. Samstown. Yeah, I was at Samstown. Wait. No, where was I working? Maybe it wasn't Samstown. Or yeah. Yeah, it was. Okay, anyway. Somewhere in there I was... Okay, yeah, that's... Okay. I confused myself because right along in that time I was also working at Applebee's, and I knew I didn't work at both at the same time. But anyway. So I have a job, I'm working, and I end up wrecking my truck. So I was working at I was working at Applebee's during that time. It wasn't Samstown. Or maybe... No. I was working at Applebee's when I wrecked my truck. No, I drove my truck to my dad's. No, I took a... Sorry. I forgot. Okay, now. Oh my God. My brain has not been working today, y'all. It's, like I said, it's been a week. And... Look, y'all saw on that live earlier, I thought I left my drink inside and it was right behind me. That's the kind of day I've had. Alright, so... The Texaco Country Showdown happened. And then I went to my dad's, and then I came back and went to Sam's Town. Okay. The reason I was at Kevin's during the Texaco Country Showdown and living there is because I had wrecked my rodeo and I had nowhere to go at that point. And, I ended up having to give up my job at Applebee's, whatever. But anyway, stayed there for a few months. That happened. I got a bus ticket and went to my dad's. That's because I went to Mama Katie's over in West Monroe while I was waiting to get down to my dad's. And then when I came back from my dad's is when I started working at Sam's Town. God, this is trying to remember and relive all this. Oh my God, it's been so long ago. So when I came back and I was working at Sam's Town, there's a hotel. It's probably not safe now because I've heard Shreveport's gotten bad. But anyway, Plantation Inn. Weekly rates. That's where I was staying. I was living in a hotel, working, doing my thing. I had managed to take my taxes that year and I bought me a little car. But while I was living in the hotel several months later and working, that car broke down. Luckily, I had a nice little lady that I worked with, and I don't even know if she's still even alive. She was in her 70s working at Smokey Joe's when I worked there. Miss Imelda. She didn't live far from me. She lived in Greenwood, so she literally passed where I live on her way to work. So she would drive me into work. And during that time, I was starting to get a little discouraged because I've been searching and searching and searching and searching for my kids. No luck. I'd find an address, and by the time I found that address, they would move. Couldn't serve in paperwork if I didn't know where it was at. So, I'm working at Sam's Town, riding in with Miss Imelda. And my car had literally just broke down the Saturday before. This is where the story kind of what? Holy cow. Okay, so my car had just broken down. When I rode in with her, but that Saturday before it was still running, and I had gone into done my shift. But I came back to the hotel, and I have what I've learned. It's easier to just talk to God than to pray. I can find the words better than if I'm, oh, Holy Father, what, you get me. It's just better to He's in the room with me, talk to Him, right? God is everywhere. So, I sat down that night, and I let it all out. Because by that point, I was of course, I had a friend whispering in my ear that it wasn't really a friend. And it broke my heart when I found out she was betraying me. Because she was like a sister to me. Sarah. Anyway, the whole time I'm crying on her shoulder about I don't know where my kids are, she knew. She was in contact with him the whole time, and I didn't know it. And she was trying to convince me, well, maybe they're just better off and you need to quit looking. She almost had me convinced, but I took that to God. And I told God that Saturday night, I'm like, I don't like it. I really hate it. But if my kids really are better off and it's your will, God, I'll leave it alone. I won't look. I said, but Lord, if you don't want me to give up, I need to see a sign. Well, then my car breaks down. And that's how it always happens. So I rode in with Miss Imelda, but she had to be in, this was a Tuesday or Wednesday, I think. She had to be in an hour before I did. We were on the breakfast shift. So since I had an hour to kill, I went down in the employee dining room and I had breakfast because we got to eat free at the boat. You know, if you were working that day, you could eat free. So I went and got breakfast. And I sat down, and I didn't have an activated cell phone at the time, but I had an old phone that I would connect to Wi-Fi, and I connected to Wi-Fi, and my messenger dinged. There was a message from a friend of mine up here in Arkansas. I think you need to see this. And I clicked on it. It was a video. Turns out, right around the same time I was telling God, if it's your will, I'll give up, but I need to see a sign if you don't want me to give up, a storm rolled through Little Rock. And lightning struck my ex-husband's house. I am not joking. I am not exaggerating. I can show you the article still to this day. The video is no longer available, but the print story is still there. Just search on Google, family of 9, house struck by lightning, Little Rock, Arkansas. It'll come up. Trust me. I have it saved in my tabs on my phone. Well, the thing is, my ex-husband being my ex-husband, oh Lord, he called 911 that night, or I think it was him. It may have been Stephanie. I don't know. One of them called 911, and the call got disconnected before the dispatcher could verify the address. And they dispatched the fire trucks to the wrong address. My ex-husband had to drive down to the fire station and have them follow him back. Well, needless to say, they made a big stink about it to the news media. Billy, forgetting that I grew up here, got on TV looking for donations and hands out, and I understand that their house got struck by lightning. Okay, I get it. Y'all are gonna need some stuff and some help. Okay, I'm in that situation myself right now. Not quite like that, but you get it. I'm not shaming him for it, but his pride got him, and he went on TV, and it got back to me, and I watched the video. They played the 911 call in the video, and it gave their address. God didn't tell me not to give up. He took me straight to him. From that point on, I was able to file paperwork, serve him with paperwork, and get my divorce and go after custody of my kids. Took me a while. I had to jump through hula hoops in court. I ended up firing my attorney and taking over my case myself and representing myself, and I ended up having the ad litem apologizing to me and asking me if I would consider law school because I did really good. I mean, I guess it's in my blood. My uncle's a lawyer. Thanks, Uncle Niall. Anyway, so in the end, it was in we went to court in December of 2015. Right? No, it was 2016 because Trump was inaugurated on 2017. Yeah, it was 2016. December 2016, we went to court. I mean, we had been battling it out. I had to do 4 psych evaluations. I passed all of them. I mean, the man even had his lawyer use it against me that I don't think Kurt Cobain himself, that I think he was taken out by his ex-wife. He used that against me in court to try to prove me crazy. And I'm like, seriously, dude? Come on. I mean, the funniest thing that happened in court, and I so wish I could have had a camera in court. I really do. Because there was some really funny moments. Like, every time he would tell a lie, he would spill his water to the point that the judge finally asked him, "Do you need a sippy cup?" That wasn't the one in December. That was like the one in February. But, yeah, it was stuff like that. And, like, when I first took the case over, they have to send you discovery. So before our hearing, I get the discovery. And I'm going through it. And I just start cackling. And Mama runs in there. She's like, what's so funny? They decided to use a meme that I shared on Facebook against me. And when I tell this, y'all are going to die. And the way he set it up, because I seen it, I'm like, okay, I'm prepared for this. The way his lawyers set it up, he tried to get me in a gotcha. He tried to catch me lying on the stand, is what he tried to do, and it didn't work. He only made an ass out of himself. He embarrassed himself big time. Uh, First thing he asked me was, are you in a relationship? And I hadn't been for over a year. Going on 2 years. Kevin and I split up in 2015. It's 20. Well, no, this was in February of 2016. So, yeah, it had been a year. It had been a little over a year. Anyway, he pulls out this piece of paper. I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming, y'all. I knew it was coming. Oh, my God, I knew it was coming. He pulls out this piece of paper, and he's like, well, can you explain this? Why, yes, Mr. Wren, I can explain it, but I think you might want to read over it one more time before I do. I'll ask the questions here. Just explain it, please. Okay, you asked for it, is what I'm thinking in my head. But I said, okay. I said, it's a Facebook post that I made. It's a meme that I shared. I said, and it simply says, I'm getting married on February 30th. Please RSVP at a time. I said, Mr. Wren, how many days are in February? And that's when my ex-husband did this. Keith Wren turned 50 shades of red. And the judge is leaned over like this with his hand over his mouth, and his whole body is shaking because he's laughing and he's trying not to do it out loud. And we had a closed courtroom. All the witnesses were sequestered, so they had to be outside. So only ones that witnessed this, and that's why I said I wished I'd had a camera. The only ones that witnessed this were me, the ad litem, my ex-husband, his lawyer, the judge, and the clerk of court. And we were all dying, except for him and his lawyer. So, yeah, that's kind of how court went. And I held my own. I did. I didn't think I could do it going in, but I proved myself wrong, and I did it. I brought my kids home. We went to court in December, and I knew when the judge said this that I won. I knew walking out of that courtroom it was over. Had our hearing. Judge comes out. He's like, I can't make a ruling today. I need to do some more research before I decide where these children are going to go. That's when I knew I'd won. However, time kept rolling by. More and more and more and more. In between that, probably about 2, maybe 3 weeks. Well, it was right before Christmas. I get a call from DHS in Arkansas. Apparently, there was a report that my child was malnourished, and they wanted to know when I had, because by then I was having full weekend visitations. They wanted to know how my children, their eating habits and stuff whenever they were with me. And I told them, I said, they come to me and they act like they're starving to death. I said, I feed them. I keep food around and I cook for them, and they know if they're old enough, they know if they want a Pop-Tart or something, go get it. Well, January rolls around. Inauguration Day. I talked to my kids on the phone that day because I had my 1-hour phone call 3 times a week that was supervised on their end but recorded on mine because I ain't no dummy. Anyway, so I talked to my kids that day. Well, my oldest had a meltdown because, y'all, I'm sorry, I wish there was something nice I could say about my ex-husband's wife. I'm glad they're together because before they got together, he couldn't get it out of his head that we weren't getting back together. And I was like, praise Jesus, hallelujah, he got him another woman and he'll leave me alone. So I'm happy he moved on. Do not ever question that. But this woman's never been nice to me. And I don't want to say bad things about her, but she's never been nice to my kids either. That night, she told my ex-husband, because she got into it with Bailey, she told my ex-husband to go get her gun. Thankfully, a little bit of common sense kicked in for a change on Billy, and he refused to do it and stood up to her and said no. She was about to pull a gun on my 14-year-old child. Y'all know how I've always felt about guns. Now, I got them in my house. I learned to shoot, especially after the ship Kevin. But I've always been gun shy. Always. Well, needless to say, Bailey ended up in the hospital. Now, I am completely clueless at this point what's going on. I had no clue. None. Zero. Zilch. Monday night rolls around. Or it may have been Sunday night. It was on a Friday. It may have been Sunday night. Anyway, I get a phone call a couple of days later. It's from the hospital. I guess it was one of the nurses or one of the RAs or whatever was on the line, and was telling me that my child was there and wanted to talk to me, but they needed his passcode, because whenever they're on a psych ward, they have a little number or whatever they give you in order to identify that you know each other or whatever. And I didn't have a passcode. I wasn't aware one of my children was in the hospital, and it clearly stated in the court paperwork that he was supposed to let me know these things. So, next morning, I'm on the phone with patient advocate, and I tell her what's going on. I said, I don't know which one of my children is in there or how he got there, but this is what's going on. I said, and I have the court paperwork that I will be happy to send you, showing that the judge ordered he's supposed to tell me this stuff. And I ended up having to send it to her, and I did. I emailed it to her. She called me back, and she's like, okay. She said, I talked to him. She's like, I read what you sent me, and I talked to him and told him, court says you have to do this. You need to do this. She said, I'm going to give him until 11 o'clock, and if you don't hear from him by then, call me back. 11 o'clock rolled around. He ain't called me, so I called her back. She gave me his passcode and let me talk to him. And that's when I found out what happened. And that's when I started making moves to file emergency orders and get my children back. Because, yeah. Well, then I end up on the phone with DHS. Because, they had called me the month before. I had the caseworker's information, so I called. Come to find out, there were 9 open investigations on my ex-husband and his wife through DHS, all through different kids, and they didn't catch it because they were running it by the child's name and not theirs. They caught it that day. Buddy, they caught it that day. Saturday rolls around. Well, let me back up. I think it was like Tuesday or Wednesday. I get a text from Billy. Hey, the kids have a couple extra days off from school. I know it's your weekend coming up. Do you want them for a few extra days? I'll meet you in Hope if so. Okay. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna say no to that. I want to see my kids. So we went and got Dusty and RJ. Me and Mom did. Well, Bailey was still in the hospital at that time. Friday rolls around. I think it was Martin Luther King holiday. That's why they were out of school. And then they had like a couple of teacher work days, so they ended up with like a 4-day weekend or something. But anyway, I was supposed to have them back on Sunday so they could be, whatever. But Friday rolls around. I get a phone call from Bailey and the hospital with patient advocates on there. They're releasing him, and Billy's refusing to pick him up. I couldn't just go get him because I don't have custody, and Billy could have put me in jail, so I can't. And of course, they couldn't just release him to me either because I didn't have custody again. They're like, if he doesn't come and pick him up, we're sending him to foster care. And I ended up on the phone with my ex-husband begging him, look, just let him come here. Let him come here. If you don't want him to come to your house, he can come to mine. Well, something was definitely up because he's like, okay, well, here's the deal. I will agree to that if you agree to put him in a residential facility and blah, 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 which was going to mean like long-term care facility, right? And I'm like, do you want that in writing? No, I don't need it in writing. That's when I knew. That's when I knew. He didn't want it in writing. There's no proof he said that. My kid ain't going to a long-term care facility. No. He had every right to freak out. The woman was about to pull a gun on him. I don't blame him. I mean, come on. Needless to say, he went and picked him up from the hospital and met me in Hope, and I got Bailey on Friday. So I'm sitting there. I got all three kids in my possession at that moment. Saturday night rolls around, and Dusty looked at me with tears in his eyes, and he said, Mama, I'm scared to go back if she'll try to pull a gun on Bailey. What's stopping her from doing it to me and RJ? I said, I know, son, but I have to take you back. Otherwise, your daddy's going to put me in jail. I said, and the judge still ain't ruled on who gets custody yet, and I might put one toe out of line, and I can hang it up. I said, I got to take y'all back. I said, the only thing I can tell you to do is pray about it. I don't really know. I need to ask Dusty if he ever actually did pray about it. But I did. I went into the bathroom and I sat there and, I got in a quiet place. No kids. They were in bed. And I had a talk with God. This was number 3. God always works in threes. This was number 3. I told God, I said, Lord, you heard my baby in there just now. He's scared. I said, and I can't do anything. This is out of my hands completely. The only one that can change this is you. And I need you right now, and my kids need you right now more than ever. It was Saturday night. Sunday morning, I wake up. There's a text on my phone from Billy. Check your email. Kids still asleep. I get my computer out, pull up my email. I don't know why I didn't pull it up on my phone, but anyway, I did it on my computer, but I checked my email. And it was him giving me custody of the kids. He was waving his white flag. He was done. Thing is I played really nice with him on this. I could have been a complete bitch here, but I wasn't. Some of the things that he put in that email, if the judge would have seen, the judge would have ripped him a new one. He bashed the court. He brought in First Kings on it. I still have the email, but the judge never saw it. Because he was only asking for like 1 weekend a month, blah, 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 whatever. And I texted him back and I said, thank you. I am willing to give you more visitation than what you're asking for. How about I sit down and I draft up an agreement that we both can come together and sign and give to the judge? He's like, okay. So I sat down and I typed up an agreement. He gets them every other weekend. Half the summer. I was going to split the summer with him. Anytime they got out for like, because DeSoto Parish does those week-long, like, fall break, winter break, all that. He had access to them then. I gave him as close to half the year as I possibly could. I gave him as close to 50-50 as I possibly could with him being in school and me living in Louisiana. After I read that email, of course, I'm like whooping and hollering and waking the kids up, and they're coming. They come running in. They couldn't believe it. They had to read it for themselves. So I'm like, okay, guys, here's what we're going to do. We're not going to say anything to anybody. It's Sunday. We're going to load up, and we're going to go to church, and we're going to wait until Dean calls for praise and prayer reports. And that's when we're going to tell everybody. Don't say nothing to Nana. Don't say nothing to Zach. Just play it cool. So I called Mom. And see, by this point, the judge had already said, because my ex-husband got it where Zach couldn't be around the kids. So I called Mom. I'm like, get Zach up. Tell him get ready to go to church. We're going to church this morning. She's like, okay, but what about what the judge said about Zach? I said, don't worry about that. We're going to church this morning, Mama. Don't ask any questions. So we went to church. We went to Dean's church. Dean's a really good preacher. I wish he would wake up and realize what that Masonic temple really is. But I pray for that daily. We went to Shiloh, at that time, Methodist Church. He's non-denominational now. Mostly family in the church. My Aunt June, Uncle Tootsie sat right in front of us. I got cousins all over the place. That was after Aunt Alice died. I mean, she went there too, but we went to church, and Dean called for praise and prayer request, and I stood up, and I said, it's finally over. I said, I sat down with God last night. I told him that I couldn't fix this situation at all, that only he could. I said, and I woke up this morning and he fixed it. I said, I got an email from my ex-husband this morning. I have full custody of the kids now. And I don't know whose head whipped around quicker. Dean's, Mary's, my mama's, or my Aunt June's when I said that. And Mama had tears in her eyes and she said, you're joking. I said, Mama, I would never, ever joke about something like this. They're home. We did it. God did it. And that is my testimony, y'all. God did that for me. He brought beauty from my pain. He brought my boys back. He got me back to Arkansas. He brought Matt into my life. And I know I get on here and bear with me. I'm going through menopause. Like, seriously. And I have a cyst on my ovary. The doctor won't give me any hormones. I'm taking over-the-counter crap from Walmart. And it's helping, but it's not. I mean, come on. My hormones are screwed up. I swear I'm not crazy. I'm just hormonal. Well, I'm lacking hormones. Whatever the case may be. I'm going through menopause and it sucks. And it's turned me into a raving bitch. More than what I already was. I know I've said some things about my husband, but he's a good man. And I love him. And I'm so blessed to have him in my life. I don't know how I ever lived life before him, to be honest. He works hard. He takes care of us. He raised my boys. Even though I gave Billy all that time with them kids, and he only lives 30 minutes away from me now. He lives in Quitman. He didn't have nothing to do with them. He ghosted them. First time he didn't call RJ for his birthday. Oh my God. Oh my God. That was a nightmare. That was a nightmare. But they're lucky. They got Matt. And Matt's been good to them. Matt has helped me raise them. And I couldn't have done it by myself, believe me, because they were going through some shit. And obviously, I mean, look at what their dad put us through. And the thing is yeah, I forgave him a long time ago. Because, like I said, if he hadn't have done what he did, I'd have never found God. He apologized a few years ago. However, I feel like it was an empty apology. Because I've been watching, and from what I've seen, he hasn't changed a whole lot. And I pray daily that he does change. I beg God for the day he proves me wrong and he becomes the man that he needs to be for these kids. Because they love him. And it's worse on them than what it was with me. Because with my daddy, I didn't know what I was missing. I didn't have him in my life, like, ever growing up. These kids had their dad for the first part of their life. They loved their dad. And they're struggling with why he's walked away like he has. But it, again, proves me right. I told y'all he was just doing all of that. The ones that are on here listening that lived it through it with me. I told y'all when he was doing all that, he was just doing it to hurt me. I had to stop letting him hurt me. That's how I won. That and God. That's how I was able to walk in that courtroom and do what I did, because by that point I'd stopped letting him hurt me. Yeah, I remember after Aunt Alice died, I sat down, I was talking to Uncle George, and I asked him, how did y'all do it? He said, do what, sweetheart? And I said, well, I just remember when I was growing up, you were at every family gathering, you were at every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, anytime we had a big family get together, you were there. I said, you and Aunt Alice have been long divorced. I said, why can't me and Billy do that? He said, baby, I'm fixing to tell off on my Aunt Alice, but I kind of think technically it's a crime, but what are they going to do? Dig her up? But to me, it's kind of funny because it's totally Aunt Alice. He looked at me, he said, sweetheart, do you know your Aunt Alice tried to run over me with her car after we broke up? I'm like, what? I'm like, holy cow. No, I never knew that. But, so yeah, apparently they squabbled a lot worse than me and Billy did, because I swear I never tried to run over my ex-husband, nor would I. I'm not into, hurting people physically. That's just not my thing. I know I have a dark sense of humor, but, that's just my sense of humor. I don't... Right? I mean, he used to, when we were together, because I love true crime. I love murder mysteries, true crime. And I still watch a lot of Forensic Files, but I'll watch the reruns. Back then I was watching a lot of Forensic Files, and he used to joke and say, you're only watching that so you can get away with killing me. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm like, I really wasn't. And I think we've proved that by now, because there's been many times that a psychopath would have done it. And I promise you, I'm no psychopath. I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to hurt anybody. No. If it came down to it and I felt my life was in danger, I would do what I can to survive. Don't get me wrong, but it's not something that I want to do. No matter how bad somebody makes me mad. That's not worth it. That's one of the 10 Commandments that... And, to God, sin is sin. It doesn't matter if you lie or if you do that. It's the same in His eyes. But, to me, that one's bad. That's a bad one. That's a let's stay away from that one. No. But I do watch a lot of true crime. And, I'm real bad about... I guess I got this way going through court with Billy like I did, but I've gotten to where I'll watch hearings. And I don't remember watching an OJ trial, but I'll catch different hearings and stuff, and I'll watch them because I'm kind of interested in it. It's just something I'm interested in. Doesn't mean anything. I just find it fascinating. I find tornadoes fascinating. Now that the kids are grown, once this last one's out of this house, Mama fixing to kick something off her bucket list and she's going to go tornado chasing one day. I'm just saying, no, Zach, you're not driving. I don't trust your driving. Anyway, so I don't know. Oh, wow. It's like 9:15. We've been going for an hour and 15 minutes. And that was kind of the summed up version. But now y'all know how I found God, how God spanked me, got my attention, and I have my ex-husband, Kevin, to thank for it. By the way, he did actually, when we broke up, and he gave me that black eye, he did admit that he was behind me losing my kids. He said you put them before me and I couldn't have that. That's what he said to me. So then I found out, and I'm getting ready to get off here, but then I found out after Aunt Alice died, I was up at the cemetery talking to Tammy, and it turns out I'd ask around the whole time me and Kevin were together because I never knew why this happened. But right before Andy died and Kevin and I got together, there was a big fight. Andy showed up. They were doing, Kevin and his friend Mickey were doing paintball parties for like birthdays and stuff. And Andy showed up one day and he stomped a mud hole in Kevin. And I never knew why. I asked around trying to find out. Nobody knew. Well, it turns out Tammy knew. And Tammy was up at the cemetery. We were talking one day and she told me what it was all about. Andy found out that Kevin was working with Pam, his ex-wife, to keep his kids away from him because he wanted his drinking buddy back. Because when Andy met Pam, he quit drinking, he quit running around, he quit doing drugs, and he straightened his life up. Andy found out Kevin did that, and he stomped a mud hole in him. Had I known, and like I said, I asked everybody that I could think of to ask. Had I known what that was all about when I first ran into Kevin, we'd never got together. But, again, had that not happened, I would not be where I am today. And God has blessed me so much. And the thing is that the portrait studio closed through all of that, and that broke my heart. That was, y'all know how much I love doing pictures. The fact that I'm able to run my own portrait business now, that's all God. And I try to let him lead my business. And he has. I mean, there's been times that, ironically, that couple from Thanksgiving, when they paid for their wedding, it was right after Matt's stroke, and I was able to pay the bills for the month out of that money, and I was very, very thankful and thanking God for that and them in that moment. And we all know how that turned out. We'll talk about that another bedtime story. That's kind of still going on a little bit, but not nearly as bad as it was a few months ago. It's pretty much died out. But anyway, I am way past my bedtime because usually I'm in bed by 8 o'clock. I'm old. Well, it doesn't matter. I've always been this way. I've always gone to bed early. I'm not a night owl. Not really. No, not me. Not my thing. That would have been my downfall if I'd ever made it to Nashville, because having the up all night, sleep all day, can't do it. Can't do it. Alright, but anyway, thanks for joining. I love you all, and I will see y'all tomorrow for our Bible study. Bring your Bibles. I've got it all written out and ready to go. Bye, y'all. How do I stop it? Oh, right there.